Hello, BookTube. Remember that thing I said about it being the last mail haul of the week? Once again, on Saturdays, I have a different set of people that I'm dealing with. A different on-foot postal carrier, a different driver of the postal truck, and a different driver of the UPS truck. Even the FedEx guy is different. And they all have their different plans, there are different routines, and I always forget that. I always think Saturday is going to be the exact same as the rest of the week, and it's not. So I got another delivery of books. It's not very big, doesn't have a box, but I thought we'd go through it as the official, last possible mail haul of the week. We'll start with this. We've got a little package here. Oh, great. Oh, boy. Oh, my. All right. Well, we start off with something big. That's great. This comes out in July. It's the new Colson Whitehead. It's the Nickel Boys, which doesn't have a pub sheet, I guess, at this point. It doesn't really need it. He's A-list now. What have we got here? As the civil rights movement begins to reach the black enclave of Frenchtown in segregated Tallahassee, Florida, Elwood Curtis takes the words of Dr. Martin Luther King to heart. He is, quote, as good as anyone. Abandoned by his parents but kept on the straight and narrow by his grandmother, Elwood is about to enroll in a local black college. But for a black boy in Jim Crow South in the early 1960s, one innocent mistake is enough to destroy the future. Elwood is sentenced to juvenile reformatory called the Nickel Academy, whose mission statement says it provides, quote, physical, intellectual, and moral training, so that the delinquent boys in their charge can become honorable and honest men. And of course, the Academy turns out to be a horror show. So I haven't read this yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And needless to say, it will get reviewed everywhere. Rick Colson Whitehead is now appointment reviewing. You can't ignore a book of his. You have to review it no matter what. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, he's a brilliant writer. What have we got here? Okay, so this is a novel of some kind. It comes out in early February. And elaborately praised. And it looks like it's a debut. This is by When You Read This. This is When You Read This by Mary Adkins. In her affecting epistolary novel, the book hilariously and incisively explores the ties that bind and sometimes undo us. A dramatic comedy for the digital age. Essentially, the epistolary novel 2.0 for readers of Maria Semple and Rainbow Rowell. Okay, so this is YA. Is this YA? It's not, it's HarperCollins. It's not their YA imprint. Okay. Alright. Okay, this definitely rendered debut turns an age-old form on its head as it tackles some of the big questions. What should we do with the time we have left? Can we ever really know what someone else would have wanted? Can love survive or grow out of crushing loss? For 4 years, Iris Massey worked side by side with P.R. Mavin Smith-Simone, helping clients perfect their brands. But Iris has died, taken by terminal illness at only 33. Adrift without his friend and colleague, Smith discovers that during Iris's last 6 months, she created a blog filled with astute, often funny musings at the end of a life not quite fulfilled. And she's made one final request, that Smith find a way to publish her posts as a book. With the help of his charmingly eager, if overbearingly forthright, new intern, Carl, Smith sets out the task of fulfilling Iris's last wish. Okay. Alright, an epistolary debut novel. I'm not sure what that bit about Rainbow Rowell was. I mean, who was that? It was, we got Maria Semple and Rainbow Rowell. All right, well, I'm sure by epistolary they mean emails, right? They have to. Nobody writes letters anymore. Even I don't write snail mail letters anymore, and I used to love it. The last of my snail mail correspondence and I just eventually decided, what's the point? We can email every single day, several times. We can email every thought. And, you know, I'm not going to say I don't miss it. There's something to a long, rambly epistolary, a long, rambly handwritten snail mail letter. There's something to that email can't capture, of course, apart from permanence, since emails can be gone. And snail mail letters, unless they're burned or drowned, they're around for a long time. But there's something else. There's something to it. The argument that I've heard in favor of email correspondence is, of course, nothing gets missed. You can link to videos. You can include photos. You can if you get into the habit of firing off emails whenever the mood strikes you, then you never miss anything. Whereas at the end of a week, when it's time to write your letter, you start summarizing, and you do tend to leave stuff out and take it into a greater narrative. I don't know that I agree with that, though. I think the act of the narrative itself is something that adds to the wonder of the whole thing rather than detract from it. I miss it, is what I'm saying. I would never do it. It's totally impractical, but I miss it. And I also miss the feeling. There was a feeling. Those of you who are old enough will remember. There was when a day was coming and you had a feeling you were going to get a nice big fat letter, or when you didn't expect it. And you got not just a letter, but a big 3-stamper, a big fat letter, something you could just read and then reread and then reread, like something out of Pride and Prejudice, only for real. That was a wonderful feeling. There's nothing quite like that when it comes to email. And I miss that. That's just a feeling from an older world that you just can't have it anymore. And you miss it. That's all. But anyway, let's see what this next one is here. Of course, the email epistolary novel has been done many times before. So I don't know what, that business in the pub sheet about revamping an old form was. I guess I'll find out. Okay. This is the finished copy of Yuko Tsushima's Tsushima, her Territory of Light. I think we saw this before. I am once again, as I mentioned, available for cover design. Anybody, at any time. This comes out in mid-February, and it is a simple, remarkable story. Each chapter of the short, forceful novel is 1 month in the life of a woman and her 2-year-old daughter, following her separation from her husband. She moves into her apartment on the top of a nondescript building. It is filled with light, the kind of luminous presence that marks the passage of time. Much of the novel is set in the apartment, a circumscribed world that contains an expansive universe of emotions. I remember getting this before, and it intrigues me. I haven't read it yet. It's translated from the Japanese by Geraldine Harcourt, and I haven't got to it yet, and I mean to. It'll take, half an hour to read. And I'm interested in it because of the nature of that circumscribed area bit, where most of it takes place in a tiny apartment. That is fascinating. I don't think I could write fiction like that, so I'm always interested when I see somebody do it. Let's see. Let's move on here. Ooh. Oh my. Okay, this comes out in early May. This is by Michael Benton, and it is Dinosaurs Rediscovered. Over the past 20 years, the study of dinosaurs has become a true scientific discipline. Oh, what was it before then? What was it before then? New technologies have revealed secrets locked in their prehistoric bones in ways that nobody predicted. But that doesn't invalidate the fact that it was a serious scientific expedition before then. God Lord, what does that mean? What does that mean? So now that we have digital photography, we can say that Matthew Brady wasn't a photographer? We can now work out the color of dinosaurs, their bite forces, top speeds, and even how they cared for their young. In this book, the author, one of the world's leading paleontologists, describes incredible new fossil finds that continue to add to our knowledge, such as a giant sauropod dinosaur skeletons found in Patagonia, dinosaurs with feathers in China, and even a tiny dinosaur tail in Burmese amber, complete down to every detail of its filament-like feathers, skin, bones, and mummified muscles. Wow. Okay, I'm totally on board. Oh, and it's lively. It's full of illustrations as well. Not just in the middle, but all throughout. Photos and drawings. Fantastic. Oh my. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Unfortunately, this is the type of book that no paying editor ever wants anybody to review. I'll just have to. I'm very lucky to have a fairly well-respected venue of my own where I can review anything I damn well please. So I'm very lucky to have that, to give this some attention in May. And then we have the last item here, and then we'll be done with our very last mail haul of the week. So what have we got here? Oh, it's 2 books. What is that? It's 2 books. Great. Oh, they're both in paperback. Oh, great. These are 2 more paperbacks for me to read. Wonderful. Okay, so this first one is Matt Young. This is his memoir, Eat the Apple, with a cover blurb from Maureen Corrigan, who recently won the National Book Critics Circle Award for Literary Criticism. This is the book in paperback. Great. What have we got here? Matt Young. Yes? At age 18, Matt Young signed up for the Marine Corps. You've chosen the United States Marine Corps infantry based on one thing, he says to himself. You got drunk last night and crashed your car into a fire hydrant sometime in the early morning and think, because your idea of masculinity is severely twisted and damaged by the male figures in your life and the media with which you surround yourself, that the only way to change your life is the self-flagellation achieved by signing up for war. That's warped, is it? That's not actually true. What are you supposed to do instead? Cry? Eat the Apple is a memoir that doesn't read like a memoir. It is dark, dirty, morally ambiguous, and completely immersive. I've read a stack of memoirs as tall as your eye that fits that description. I don't even know what that means. What does that imply? That memoirs don't usually read that way? Bad ones don't. So I guess what the publicist is trying to say here is that this is a good memoir. Great. Fantastic. Don't need to malign the genre. At various moments it feels like fiction, an irreverent poem, or a long joke, but it's all true. And it all happened to Matt Young in the course of his 3 deployments to Iraq. Good Lord. All right. Well, that's quite a bit of atonement for a one busted fire hydrant. Great. I don't think I ever read this when it first came out. I'm very glad to have it. That's wonderful. And this one I did read, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I don't have it, so I can't wait. I'm glad I have a copy now that I will hold on to, and I can't wait to read it again. This is Chief Engineer by Erica Wagner. This is a biography of Washington Roebling, who built the Brooklyn Bridge, and who is a little bit of destruction going on off camera here. I'll make sure to show her to you. I'll put her on camera as soon as we're done. Let's see here. His father conceived of the Brooklyn Bridge, but after John Roebling's sudden death, Washington Roebling built what was become one of America's most iconic structures. As much a part of New York as the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. Yet, as recognizable as the bridge is, its builder is too often forgotten, and his life is of interest far beyond his chosen field. It is the story of immigrants, of the frontier, of the greatest crisis in American history, and of the making of the modern world. And this is that story. Washington Roebling had an incredible life, and this was a fantastic job. I'm so happy to have it in paperback. That's wonderful. Great, and these are both coming out in early February. So I'll report back about Eat the Apple, since I don't recall ever reading it. But this, in early February, will be in your bookstore. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And not just for the Brooklyn Bridge. Those of you who are Civil War fans will know Washington Roebling as well. From that, all of it is done well. This author really knows how to tell a story. So there we go. That is our last mail haul of the week. We have a whole bunch of stuff here. We have When You Read This, a modern epistolary novel. We have The Nickel Boys, which in the summer will be the new Colson Whitehead novel. Let's see here. We have Territory of Light, English-language translation of Japanese novel set mostly in a small apartment. We have Dinosaurs Rediscovered, a new sort of snapshot handbook of the latest dinosaur research. And 2 paperbacks. Eat the Apple, a memoir of life of 3 deployments in Iraq, good Lord, and Chief Engineer by Erica Wagner about Washington Roebling and his world and all the things that he did that weren't the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, the Brooklyn Bridge, of course, is a big part of this book. Some of you who have read David McCullough's book on the Brooklyn Bridge will remember Washington Roebling. But the whole of his life gets in here as well, and all of it is fascinating and well told. So there you go. That's it. We'll put these on the pile. And that is the last video that you will get from me today. You're just going to have to somehow struggle along until tomorrow. Thank you for your patience, as always. Oh, wait, the bean. Oh, who are all those people, Bean? Who are they all? Oh. All right, time for me to clean up after her. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.